and lied about WMDs, killed over 1 million Iraqis just for oil and weapons sales. That's a lot more scary than going along with the system and just hating Arabs and Muslims and talking about how they're going to kill us all day, when the true radical Muslim brigades all over the world throughout history are run by first Hitler and now the CIA and MI6 on record. It is their foreign brigade that they use to go in to secular or to elected governments in the Middle East or Central Asia and to bring them down. That's who Al-Qaeda is, the sword of the New World Order. Damn Al-Qaeda. Damn Al-Qaeda to hell. I'm not going to speak much more because I want to give more time to the architects and engineers, Dr. Bob Bowman, that's coming up. But again, there's just so many points that we need to make to everyone out there watching, and that you need to make to your friends and family. You need to take it to them and show it to them. Dick Cheney, 3 years ago, and I remember talking to Ray McGovern, former CIA briefer for Reagan and Bush, and he said on air, the word is they're going to stage a Gulf of Tonkin in the Strait of Hormuz or in the Persian Gulf area south of there as a pretext to go into Iran. And now we know it was green lighted. And Admiral Fox Phelan and others said, I'm not going to be part of it, I'm going to resign. We would have already had a war with Iran that could have been the trigger for World War III. In fact, most of the geopolitical military experts say it would probably go in that direction. Very good chance of it. If a lot of the top brass hadn't stood up and said no. That's why, what, a year ago, Admiral Mullen, Joint Chiefs of Staff, went to Israel for the first time ever and in a speech said, we know what happened with the USS Liberty and something like that better not happen again, as an attempt to sink that ship to blame it on Egypt. And that could have launched World War III because they had a defense deal with the Russians in 1967. Think about how close we are. And the establishment wants a new war, knowing that you'll accept the banker bailouts, the tyranny, the corruption, that is the general public will, if there's a new war that's been launched. And then it came out a year after that, right before Bush left office, MSNBC, Cy Hirsch, as well, New Yorker magazine, that Cheney indeed, in the White House, had proposed creating fake gunboats, PT boats, blue Iranian boats, to have them attack a U.S. destroyer as a pretext to launch a war against Iran. And Cheney doesn't get in any trouble. And now we have a new book out from annals inside the White House where on 8/88, Dick Cheney, I guess he didn't want to give up power, wanted to launch a war against Russia. Now, see, these people are insane. They're functioning psychopaths. They're sadistic psychopaths. They're very calm, cool, collected, and focused, but they are mentally ill. Imagine Russia, tens of thousands of nuclear weapons, topo limbs, the whole delivery system. This isn't Iran. This isn't Iraq. And I remember getting up that morning on 8/88 in 2008, and I turned on CNN and they said, Russia has attacked Georgia. And even Alex Jones, 2 years ago, bought into it for about an hour. I mean, I couldn't imagine that they're that bold at lying, that they would get on the news and say, Russia has attacked. And then I went to the BBC and the London Telegraph and to the Russian news, and in every other country, in the Japanese news, it was the truth. It was that overnight, they had gone into the UN-held area, South Ossetia. They tried to get into Abkhazia. And they even had peacekeepers in the bases who would do the old special forces technique and walk right up behind the Russian troops and stab them in the back and throw hand grenades in their barracks. And they had the unguided missile batteries firing in. And it was all public that Georgia had launched that war and that Israeli, U.S., and NATO forces were there. And then the announcement was made that NATO forces were going to go in. And the Russians pulled in, rolled in their mobile nukes, and said, we're going to, and they had the top Russian general come out and say, we're prepared to use nuclear weapons, and then the West backed off. Now again, Russia's corrupt and has all its own problems. I criticize Russia every day. This isn't like, oh, America's good, so we need nuclear war with the Russians. The issue is they think the public is so dumb that they would launch a false flag in plain view, knowing that the world would discover the truth within hours that a premeditated attack was launched by U.S.-backed Georgian forces into a Russian-held area, killing peacekeepers that had been there since 1991. Think of the magnitude of that. And then a week ago, and the AP's even reported on this, for those out there watching, on state-controlled TV, they ran a newscast saying Russia had attacked again. And it was just all completely fake. And finally, the Georgians are mad. They're protesting by the tens of thousands, saying this was a false flag staged event, just like 9/11. So now it's a Orson Welles War of the Worlds mind control, where they don't even have to attack Russia and then say that Russia attacked. They just run newscasts saying Russia has attacked to somehow instill fear in the public. That's how dangerous these individuals are that we are facing as a society. That's how evil these individuals are. Their lust for power, they've got all the money, all the women, all the land, all the caviar they can eat. And for them, they love sitting around their electronic maps of the world playing games with our lives like we're their little toys, to borrow a phrase from Bob Dylan. And I'm not their toy. I have a wife and 3 children. I'm somebody who loves the truth and who loves to stand up against corruption, not because I'm even some wonderful good guy. I'm not twisted. I have a basic self-preservation mechanism. I like things to be fair. I know that you need to stand up against corruption. I know you need to stand up against tyranny. Because in every case in history, when you don't stand up against tyranny, it always goes to the extreme. Tyranny doesn't stop. Once you bend to evil, it goes all the way. It happened in Russia. It's happened in China. It happened in Germany. It's happened in Cambodia. It's happened in Cuba. It's happening in Venezuela. Hugo Chavez is becoming a bona fide tyrant. His excuse is he's fighting the Western tyrants. And so what you have is globally all these tyrants propping each other up. The excuse of, well, they're tyrants, so we're going to be tyrants. Well, they're tyrants, so we're going to be even greater tyrants. We've got to bodyguard the truth with lies. And the end justifies the means, and the noble lie. What, 2 years ago, a 2004 Pentagon Army manual for captains and above came out. And in there it lists how to stage false flags. If you're having trouble with local insurgents getting too much popularity, stage a massacre, blame it on them. This is standard issue now in our government, just like a canteen and an M16. At captain and above level, if you were compartmentalized in those areas, you were taught how to stage terror attacks. Remember 2006? It was in the London Guardian and the BBC, British SAS, Special Air Services, the combat arm of MI6, was caught dressed up like Muslims running around shooting people on the streets of Basra to get sectarian violence between Shiite and Sunni going. And I could go on and on and on. And until we fully break the back of the 9/11 lie, until we expose the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, things are only going to get worse. But we are now approaching that tipping point, and the system realizes that the majority of people are starting to question. They're starting to ask who stands to gain, qui bono, from Latin, who benefits. And soon, they're not going to be able to use this tool anymore, and this is their #1 tool and mechanism of control. And so that's why now, before they start shutting down the web, before they stage terror attacks and blame it on 9/11 truth, now is the time for us to be on record that we understand their attack profile, we understand their past operations, and we know what's coming. Just as I was able to predict 2 months before 9/11 that they would specifically target the World Trade Center and blame it on their asset, Osama bin Laden, I'm telling you now, as I've been saying for 3 months, they are going to stage terror attacks and blame it on 9/11 truth. But that isn't something to get scared of when they do it. That is a sign of them failing, of their system falling. And because we're here before it happens, laying out what the enemy's going to do, more people are going to listen to us, and this tool of false flag terror is on the verge of dying. It is hanging on by its fingernails because of all of you. And I salute you, and I thank you for being here, and I want to thank architects and engineers and all their great supporters. 1,100, it'll be 10,000 in a year. You watch. We are never going to stop, and that's the final word. Sure, if you're prominent in this, there's some danger. Danger of demonization, danger of audits, danger of physical attacks, whatever. But freedom and liberty is worth it, because it leads to certain destruction to give in to corruption and to bow to it. The safest course is to fight 110%. But for you, the individual, you are safe. And the more people you wake up, the safer you are. Safer from the fake terror. Safer from the wars that grow out of the fake terror. And safer from the jackbooted thugs that they're trying to forge. Because the military and police I'm talking to, in vast numbers, randomly on the street, are becoming fully awake. Freedom is on the march. God bless you all. Thank you for coming out today.